Welcome to the dark and seedy underworld of duct tape and daddy issues. My name's Dickens and I am your host. I would apologise for how I look today, but I'll be honest, one of the things I collect is chronic illnesses, and this is how I looked when I was working anyway. So you may as well get the full Monty. Just another swig of coffee. So apologies for not having been here for a little while. I have been busy doing the day job, not this job, but a different job, and writing poems and doing my PhD and going to the wonderful Unislam and taking part in the World Cups. It's a big time of year for poets. Let's just put it that way. It's a very big time of year for poets. So apologies for not having been around, but hopefully we're back on track now. And you might be wondering why I'm alone this week. Well, the chapter I'm about to read is not something that's funny, ha ha. It's pretty dark, because as you'll find out, sometimes the dark and seedy underworld of duct tape and daddy issues really is dark, really is seedy, and really does feel like an underworld. So before we get on to this, I'm going to say thank you to all my past guests. And from next week, we should be back to the normal hilarious stuff. But this carries a massive content warning for talk of degradation, talk of sexual abuse, talk of sexual assault. And it's just generally a really, really difficult chapter. So what I'm going to say to you, as much as I want you to consume all of my work, I am a writer and your emotions sustain me. I will say, actually, it's more important to me that you look after yourself. So if you don't think you can handle this chapter, cat drool on my screen, charming. Thanks, Frida. If you don't think you can handle this chapter, then don't listen to it. Honestly, the laughs are coming back. There will, as Bill Hicks used to say, hold on, don't worry, there will be dick jokes. They're coming in a bit. But this is going to be a rough chapter, which is why I've chosen to A, do it on my own, and B, do quite a bit of preamble about the fact that it's more important to me that you look after yourself than that you listen to this episode. I'm going to include it because I think it's important, especially if you've been listening to this podcast or watching this podcast and thinking, do you know what, I could do that. I could do that. And you probably could. But there are times that you have to look after yourself. And this is one of them. So, swig of coffee. Which my mug, if you can't see it, says, this artist, what's it say? This is what an autumn artist look like. It's true, I do, but it's not my mug, it's my door person. So nearly finished my coffee. You can see I'm having to steel myself for this. So let's get on with it. So the last chapter ended with, may all of my callers find the nerve to ring me back. Actually, no, not all of them. There are some men who, if I had my way, would never speak to a woman again. Not any woman, not on the phone, and certainly not in real life. It's not often I need to take a break from calls, but it would be remiss of me to try and paint this job as always fun. Sometimes it's the polar opposite of fun. Buckle up, we're heading to the depths now. Something dark side. Fair warning, this chapter is going to be as dark as shit, and you might want to skip it if you think it will upset you. However, if you want to know the reality of working on a phone sex line, not just the funny bits, then take a seat. Oh, if you want to read along to this wonderful book, of course, I think it's wonderful, I wrote it, Duct Tape and Daddy Issues by D. Dickens, can be found on Amazon bookstores. I do have fun with some of my callers, and most of them are harmless, but there have been a few that I hung up on. Now, hanging up on a caller is very much frowned upon, as they will take their business elsewhere if you do it, and it is a very competitive industry, but it does happen, and the office are fine with me when I do it, as they know full well that there's a bloody good reason. It isn't because of their specific appetites. It is a sex line after all, and I'm not everyone, and not everyone's tastes run to the vanilla. I'm fine with that. My own tastes are as far from vanilla as you can get, but I'm all about consent and safety. It shouldn't need saying, but if you are going to play, then make sure everyone involved is having a good time. I get so annoyed when I see things like consent is sexy. No, it isn't. It's fucking mandatory. If she isn't saying no, it doesn't mean she is automatically saying yes. If I even get a whiff that someone is not happy or is being coerced or is even considering second thoughts, then I'm done. My vagina dries up like the Serengeti and I switch into protective mode. I don't know if that's a trauma response. It's probably a trauma response. Do you reckon? I think it's a trauma response. Though there are some that find that sexy, those who like to be mothered if this happens, then I'm nowhere even close to being in the mood. Oh, that sounded awful, didn't it? Let's try that sentence again. Though there are some that find that sexy, those who like to be mothered, if this happens, then I'm nowhere even close to being in the mood, and I will kick the shit out of anyone who tries it at that point. As an aside, somebody did try to put their hand down my top while I was getting off with a very lovely woman called Becky. And I warned him if he tried to touch me, then I would break a finger. And he did. He put his hand down my top, pulled it out, snapped his finger. Do not come near me because I will go cold on your ass. Like, seriously, don't touch me if I don't want to be touched. And that goes for everyone. There is just so much going on in the world. Last night, a very dear friend of mine told me that they'd been sexually assaulted at work by someone who thought it was all right. It's never all right, not ever. And if I find out who this fucker is, I will roll up in my mobility scooter and take his fucking legs out. I've got you, T. Like, when I'm looking for playmates for myself and hubby, I make sure that both people are into it. If he won't let me talk to her, it's not happening. If she is doing it to make him happy, then likewise, no. It is one of the reasons I'm very glad that I can hang up the phone if the guy starts talking about rape. Lord knows we are already pressured into sex, whether it is him sulking, pleading, or giving us the cold shoulder when we're not into it. And it needs to end, honestly. Women, we need to stop having sex when we're not in the mood. And I know it's hard. That's what she said. But we do. We need to tell him he's an asshole for sulking, and we need not to get pestered into it either. I mean, I get that a lot of us are putting ourselves in risk of violence if we say no. I get it. I was there. I got you, sister. But something's got to change, innit? Seriously, too many of us have encounters where we get home and wonder if what happened the night before was actually assault. They're not reporting it because if we aren't sure, then how the fuck are we going to convince anyone else? We need to be enforcing our boundaries and we need to be supporting each other when we do. That's really important. This whole women need to do better. In some cases, I'm lucky. I'm surrounded by amazing women and women adjacent people who for whom I believe her isn't just a hashtag, it's a way of life. But there are so many women who are like, well, we need to hear both sides of the story. No, we don't. No, we don't. If a woman says something untoward has happened, you protect that woman. You just circle that woman and make sure she's safe. If it turns out she's lying, then we deal with that. But I would rather protect one woman who's lied than not protect the 100 who didn't. Does that make sense? Men, not getting away with this. It bears repeating, consent isn't sexy, it's fucking mandatory. Not only does no mean no, but only an enthusiastic yes means yes. Also, you cannot say you have consent if she's incapacitated by alcohol or drugs. Neither do you actually have her consent if you have had to talk her into it, nor do you have it if you sulk when she's not in the mood. Do yourself a favour and take mixed signals as a no. If you do any of those things, then you are not the nice guy I am certain you think you are. You are a potential rapist and you should not be anywhere near women. Don't even try coming at me with the not all men bullshit. Firstly, it is enough men that is a problem. Secondly, if your response to a woman telling you about her issues is to distance yourself by getting defensive, then you are part of the problem. Thirdly, the men who behave badly need you to condemn them, not defend them. Lastly, if you don't recognise yourself in what I'm describing, then I'm quite obviously not talking to you. Stop trying to derail shit. Why are you so invested in defending a man over a woman? Like, seriously, we don't need you to defend us when we're there. We need you to call them out on their behaviour when we're not. So if your friend is making like rape jokes or saying, oh, she's cool, I'd like to stick something in her drink, call them out on it. In the moment, be firm. Don't laugh. Get rid of that fucker from your friendship group and warn the women. If you see him talking to someone, a woman, say, look, he's just been joking about roofing your drink. This is what we need you to do, men. We need you to do better, and this is how we need you to do it. I am talking to you, man who told me he was feeling very naughty because his girlfriend was out and he was sniffing dirty knickers. When I said, oh, sniffing your girlfriend's dirty panties, are you? He told me in a tone that suggested that I was the idiot, that he was sniffing his mum and sister's knickers. I wasn't sure that I had heard him correctly, so he repeated it and told me they smelled really sexy. I don't know where to start with this. I felt scared for his mum and sister and his girlfriend, to be honest. End call. I am talking to you, man who asked me what my name was on the granny line, and when I said Stella, asked if you could call me Lily. I thought it a nice name and probably the same as an older woman or teacher he fancied. No, was his mother's name. He thought she was really sexy and wanted to fuck her. I'm like, calm your tits, Oedipus. I'm prepared to pretend to be your primary school teacher, but not the fucking woman who birthed you. Freud would have a great time with this one. I've never found my father sexy, though most of my mates do. It's weird. He looks like Denzel still in his 80s. So I just don't get it. End call. Speaking of school, I am talking to you, guy who rang and wanted me to dress in school uniform. Now, I have a strange relationship with this sort of thing. I don't mind doing it in real life with the husband because he can clearly see I'm not a child. He doesn't want to have sex with a child. He wants to have his sex with his wife dressed in school uniform so he can make up for the fact that he didn't get his first kiss till he was 17. Sorry for telling tales, babe. And it is really hot with him. When I'm on the phone, it feels different, very different. With this man, it felt sinister. My hackles were up and I tried to say I was just leaving sixth form, which would make me 18. He growled at me and said I was leaving year 6, which would make me 11. He then said, I am going to fuck you, little girl. No, you fucking well are not, I replied. End fucking call. He isn't alone either. There are lots of men who, while I'm talking to them, will ask me questions relating to what I was like as a teenager with the boys. They never asked me about the girls. One asked me if I liked to touch myself when I was 5. These men make me feel sick. They are finding children sexy. They are paedophiles. I won't have it when they tell me that it's just a fantasy and that they aren't doing it for real. It isn't harmless fun, and I'm not doing children a favour if I let them explore with me instead. I don't want them to have an outlet. I don't want them to do anything apart from die horribly. My non-judgmental streak has no time for your perversion, and I would happily kill you myself, slowly. And I would smile while doing it too. Again, if this chapter is in any way triggering to you, stop listening. It's about to get even rougher for me anyway. As dark as that was, it isn't as dark as Alex. Alex didn't do anything that contravened any rules, so I couldn't end the call. Though I could have ended the call, because you know what, who needed this shitty job dealing with this shit? But me having been, even though, as you can tell, like, right, I'm a feminist, I'm a staunch feminist, I'm a hardline feminist. I believe in bodily autonomy before all else. I believe in choice. And even then, I'd still been, what's the words I'm looking for? Can't think of the words I'm looking for. I'd still been brainwashed. Yeah, brainwashed into thinking because he hadn't technically done anything wrong, I couldn't hang up on him. Jesus. So Alex didn't do anything that contravened any rules, so I could not end the call. He wasn't under 18. He wasn't talking about incest, rape, or children. He didn't want to shag a hamster, but this was the worst call I've had to date, and I had to call the office to take the rest of the day off when it was over. To this day, if a caller introduces himself as Alex, even if it's not this Alex, I go cold all over. The very name fills me with dread and sends my fight or flight reflex into overdrive. You see, Alex likes to be in control. I don't usually mind that. I can be quite the submissive when the mood takes me. But Alex has his way of getting off, and he doesn't care if the woman is enjoying it. In fact, Alex gets off on women not enjoying it. That he likes his women submissive is fine by me, but Alex likes his subs to cry. Not just a tear or two, he likes them to sob, loud, gut-wrenching sobs. Even that wouldn't be too bad, but he likes his subs to talk while they cry. He likes them to say. Now, before we get into what he likes them to say, right, since I wrote this book, I have investigated the kink industry and the kink scene quite extensively. And actually, I'm not even going to kink shame Alex for this, nor am I going to kink shame the subs who enjoy being degraded or enjoy crying while they are being degraded. Right? Some of them actually enjoy that. The issue I had was I didn't know what was going to take part in the beginning. There was no discussion of what was going to take part. There was no way for me to actually give consent apart from my actions, which would imply consent. And I think that's just as fucked up as the rest of it. I am not into degradation kink. Right. Now, had Alex said to me, what I'm really into is degradation, I'd have probably gone, I am not the woman you want. Hang up, try someone else. Would have been that simple, but he didn't ask. So he likes them to say things like, I'm sorry, I'm so worthless. I'll do better, I promise. I am ugly and you are right to hate me. Please hit me, I am not deserving of your kindness. All that stuff would not feel so bad if the women didn't hear it and fear it all the fucking time. And Alex didn't like to call women whores and cunts while he tells them to stuff their underwear into their cunts while biting on their lips hard enough to make them bleed, and cry, you bitch, cry harder and louder. Some people find that hard, and more power to them. If you have two people who both find that hard, this is fine. This is what I'm saying. But this was not fine. When I cried, he laughed, and it was that made it so horrific. He was laughing and wanking as I sobbed. Was it awful? Yes, it was beyond awful. It brought up memories in me that I had thought long buried and triggered the worst PTSD attack I had experienced in a long while. It took me days to recover. Did I do everything I asked? Yes. There was a part of me that wanted to, and a part of me that couldn't help but acquiesce to what he needed, and that was scary as fuck. My demons did not get where they are now by being predictable, the tricksy little bastards. Did I end the call? No. It was a 45-minute terror ride, and Alex is a dangerous man. A very fucking dangerous man, because you know what? If he wasn't, he wouldn't have to ring up and do this on the phone. He would be part of a local kink scene. He would have been vetted, and he would have been cleared as safe to work with. But he wasn't. He was on the phone. So this tells me, having done a lot more research, that he'd been vetted and he was found too dangerous to work with. So that's why he was on the phone to me. Women know when they have had a lucky escape. And I got mine by telling him I only work Saturdays. I never work Saturdays. And because I never want to hear that voice again, I never will. I think we could probably all do with a stiff drink and a break after that. So, honesty achieved. Maybe we should talk about something a bit more fun. How about we talk about Stella? And that's that chapter. If you're still here, fucking well done. I applaud your bravery and your strength. I would still suggest you do some aftercare on yourself, that you go and have a cuddle with someone. Do whatever you need to do. Think of 5 things you can see, 4 things you can hear, 3 things you can smell, 2 things you can touch, and 1 thing that makes you happy, because that was horrible. So next week, hopefully, we've got the delightful Mark with us. And we'll be talking about who Stella is. That chapter will be called A Rose by Any Name, and we talk about all of the Stellas in depth. But I'm not going to do the whole big Patreon thing and the subscribe thing now, because you know what? It took it out of me a bit. So what I'm probably going to do is go and play a bit of Animal Crossing and just chill out for a bit. All right, I love you all madly, and next week I promise you is going to be a lot more fun. But for now, bye bye.